That's how we own it.
What's good, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the general.
And we are your hosts of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. Mr. Lennon, it's been a good Juneteenth week.
Yes, ma'am. Very good. Very good. Juneteenth. Shout out to you. You were honored at a Juneteenth event the other day, and the Juneteenth honors. And our sister, MC Light, was the host of the night, and she was very educational. She gave a lot of different things, educating people about Juneteenth that probably didn't know. If you didn't see the show, you should probably go check it out. It's on Fuse channel.
Fuse,
the night
right?
was beautiful.
Fuse TV.
Yep, Fuse TV. Fuse TV. Mm-hmm. Go check the show out. Shout out to everybody who was honored. Chuck D was honored. My guy, my new best friend.
Well, Herbie Hancock was also honored.
Yep, Herbie Hancock was honored.
The president of Morris Brown College.
President of Morris Brown College.
I think, and then your new best friend. Mm-hmm.
Yes, my new best friend, my boy Rohan Marley, who, you know, I've always admired him and respected the legacy of the Marleys, but when we met, it was like we were brothers, man. And his energy is dope. He's a Taurus just like myself.
You should tell people who Rohan Marley is. You shouldn't just assume everybody knows.
Rohan Marley is the son of Barbara.
That's right.
Also the father of Lauryn Hill's children as well. Mm-hmm. So he's just a dope individual, man. His energy is on high. You know, we were in this hotel. He ran up to me like, yo, I love everything you do, you know, and we just clicked from there, man. And he loves to party. Tell you that. He loves to have a good time.
He didn't even party that much though.
No, but he was chilling. He just loves the energy. He's one of those people that has beautiful energy. You know, we talked about a lot of different things, man. So I really appreciate what it is.
I wouldn't say, sorry, I'm loving my little nuts that they left me in the, excuse me, I guess I don't know if you're supposed to say your little nuts, but the little fruit and peanuts that they left me in the hotel. So I've been over here munching on them. So anyway, whatever. That is so 20-year-old-ish, okay? And you are so damn near 50 talking about somebody's pause. Anyway, we ended up spending the evening with him and Hill Harper, shout
out to Hill,
is a friend. Hill's already a friend. We love Hill. And Hill was the presenter for Rohan's award. And so all of us were there together. It was a great event. Ja Rule and Ashanti performed a whole concert at the end, their songs together, their individual songs. It was amazing. DJ had the people Juneteenth chilling, you know, and it was a good mixture at the event too, because you had the enjoyable things that we love, our music, all of the crafts, Layla Hathaway, and her voice with one of the Wyans sons. I don't know exactly which one it is. I missed his name, but we're going to find out because he has a powerful song that I would love for us to make sure we uplift. So it was like a lot of great things in the show. People should really check it out on Fuse. But what I was going to say about Rohan is I'm sure he does love to party because he comes from the Marley family. Like they are a music family, a soul family, a party family, a turn up family. That's who they are, right? But he wasn't even partying so much as he likes to hold court. And that is the thing that I appreciate about some of the men and people in general, because I love it about Cora Masters Berry, which is the wife of the late great Marion Barry, DC mayor. These are people who've had such experiences and or they come from such a legacy that when they're holding court, they're able to draw you into their storytelling by telling you about things you don't know, giving you the history of stuff, telling you that we were talking about a whole different situation and he had a whole other side to a conversation that we asked about. And by the time he was finished explaining it, we laughed, one, like hell, because he's hilarious. But also, even though he was being funny, what he was saying was some real shit about like Black people and how we always think somebody else's ice is colder than the ice that's right here. It's already freezing your drink, but you over there trying to get the new ice or the other people's ice or the clearer ice instead of working with your own people. And even though he was saying funny things, when you think about the reality of his message, it's so true. And I love people like that they are able to articulate, make you laugh, but also make you think. And so Rohan, to me, I mean, I've not met many Marleys, but I have been in rooms where there have been other family members of Bob Marley's. And one thing that is so clear is that family is full of brilliant people. Like these people, they came from greatness, you know, and I think we got to see a lot of that up close and personal with Rohan.
Definitely.
Your new best friend.
We gotta he said he won't come on the show, so we gotta have him on the show. That'll be a dope interview.
And maybe he learned how to say Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. That was the joke of the night. He said, I'm Jamaican, I can't say Juneteenth. Yes, it was dope.
Yeah, it was really good. The event is great. Please check it out. Again, it's on Fuse TV and it's on demand now. You can find the show. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. The Juneteenth Foundation presented Juneteenth honors. This is their third year. And as you said, our sister MC Light was the host.
MC.
And she also the MC. She was the host. And guess what? MC Light is also funny. So that it's gonna be a good show. So it is a good show. So make sure you check it out. Also, I think I don't know if it was specifically a Juneteenth event, but my girlfriend, someone who's also coordinated you being involved in a lot of Black male initiative stuff, especially with Louis Carr, who has been the head of, I think the not chief marketing, but the chief financial officer. Anyway, he raises massive money at BET. He's in charge of like all the sponsorship dollars and you know the corporate partners and what have you at BET. And Yvonne McNair, helped to facilitate you being involved with some of his Black male initiative work. And which they do every year. And she honored me at the Black Independence Award. So, you know, same time period, Juneteenth, looking at our independence and emancipation. And it also was a very fabulous event. And, you know, I think that I've been talking in all of my speeches for Juneteenth. I've been speaking for every day for the last 2 weeks about the Juneteenth holiday and what it means. And I think the biggest message is this idea that still some of our people don't know that we're free, right? Because of their conditions, because of what they experience every day, it sure doesn't feel like freedom. And there's so much more of a fight to go. We asked for reparations. They gave us a holiday, but it's our responsibility to take that holiday and turn it into the continuation of the fight for reparations. And I think that's the message, is that Juneteenth is not a day off, but it's a day on to get ourselves organized for the fight, to make sure that what has happened to us on American soil, that there is repair for the damage, because certainly damage has been caused.
Definitely, man. And this weekend was also Father's Day, you know, so shout out to all the fathers on Father's Day. I did 2 marches. Shout out to my boy Hunk, Team Hunk in Harlem. We did a big rally to declare most of the basketball tournaments. We marched about a good 20 or 30 blocks to each of the tournaments that are going to be starting next week, to declare them safe havens and, you know, and to make sure that the kids are able to be safe out there. We don't want any guns. We don't want any violence, you know, and we wanted to declare that. So, you know, we led a march on Saturday that did that. And also shout out to my brother, A.T. Mitchell. I was not able to actually be there, but he did his annual Father's Day walk, which the mayor and others attended, you know, suited and booted. Everybody was suited up. So that was a great event. You know, I usually go to his event, but I had already obligated to be the marshal of this rally that we did. So, you know, shout out to him. And then on Father's Day, Councilman Riley in the Bronx, we did a march there on Father's Day, a Father's Day walk, in which we did there. So it was a busy weekend, just seeing strong men together with their children. You know, we celebrated us. The fathers celebrated each other, man. So it was a dope weekend.
That's what's up, as you should. So just make sure that folks are aware and keeping people up on the news. The man who choked Jordan Neely to death was indicted. So, you know, he was arrested and charged. First of all, he was taken in for questioning, released, and then we went buck fool crazy on everybody to say that that man should have been arrested, even if you think that the facts will come out to support his theory or his statements that they felt threatened on the train. Even if you think that that's true, he still should have to face a court of his peers that will determine if they also believe it, right? That they will decide if what he did to
just like
Jordan
anybody
Neely,
else. If I shot somebody in my house, right now, or not in my house, if I shot somebody outside, even though if I'm a legal gun owner or whatever, I would have to prove in a court of law. Not my words is just not gonna be like, hey, he did something to me without any video, without anything, that I'm just gonna walk off without being scared. No, you're gonna be charged, and then you're gonna have to present evidence that shows that you are right, you were justified for taking someone's life.
right? And the police were not even intending to do that. I don't know how people don't see the problems with policing, but anyway,
yeah,
they
that's
weren't even trying to do that.
That's a whole nother show.
Right. They weren't even trying to do that. They just let the man go home. But and the officials, in not all of them, but we have to say Mayor Adams, the level of like how quick the tone was, like even the governor, the first day, Kathy Hochul, the tone was as if people were just so sure that mental illness caused the situation, and that it's more than likely that this man was defending and protecting people. I mean, that was the energy that folks were given until more details came out, until more people organized. And so now a grand jury, has heard some evidence, and clearly they also agree that the man should go before a court of law so that the courts can determine what he did and what he didn't do and why he did it and whether or not it was justified or not. I mean, we just want simple shit. We just want simple things. Simple. So that's the deal with that. So also, and by the way, he raised more than $2 million. So there's that. So there's been this whole thing going on. And let me tell you, I only educated myself because our sister Teslyn Figueroa posted something about how she wanted to talk about the issue of Sukiana, aka Suki with the good coochie, and YK Osiris, who I don't know anything about what he does. I don't know anything much about Suki with the good coochie either, except I watched her interview on the Breakfast Club, and I saw many clips out there where she was talking about like how, people want her to say like she's gay, and she's not trying to say she's gay. She's just, like a lot of the younger generation, they kind of feel like they're just free. So I did watch a little bit of that, and that was the first time I kind of learned anything about her. So this is a real new thing. I still don't know what show they were on or what happened, but I do know that, or I saw the images of him trying to kiss her in her mouth, and then you posted about it. So I get it. I get the essence of it, but I'm a little bit lost on the details.
Well, I mean, the details is pretty much what you're seeing on the tape. I believe they were hosting some type of basketball game or some type of event that they were at, and sexual conversation broke out. And based on their conversation, he took it as a challenge, which I don't know why, and he decided to try to kiss her in the mouth 2 times, and you see her moving away with this kind of a shocked look on her face. He laughed. Everybody else laughed it off, and social media, at first there was no comment from either side at all. And then after a day of social media constantly, then she released some statements basically, saying that what had happened to her, she was hurt and she was taking time to process. Then he came out with an apology. And then her mother responded pretty much like, fuck that apology, it's on when we see you. And it's been this big debate online, basically just about Sukiana, which we've had these conversations before all the time, which was about Sukiana and the image that she portrays. Her music and her image is sexual in nature, and is
she's
over.
An artist.
Yes, okay. She's an artist and she has
a song I know.
I don't know if you know Pound Town. I don't know if you ever heard Pound Town. I don't know if you heard, but it's very explicit. And she talks about sex. She does a lot of sexual things on her Instagram, on her social media. Most of her interviews are very sexual in nature. Everything she does is pretty much very sexual. So a lot of people were saying that, well, this is the energy she invites. And there was this big debate. And what I just went on my page it was talking to the men. What I've learned about from being around you guys a lot is that I don't get to mansplain
ladies,
to women.
We're not guys, but okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Being around you ladies, is that I don't get to mansplain what women need to do. My job was to talk to men, and I just wanted them to understand that there's no time where you are in control of any sexual encounter with a woman, and that's just the reality of what it is. And you have to be very mindful of that. You can't assume. You can't misread a situation. You can't touch a woman because you believe that she said something that other than touch me. There has to be real understanding because these situations can be very detrimental to men. Society has evolved in that regard. I was talking about how back in the days, you will see love scenes where a man walked into the room, he looked the woman in the eyes, and he grabbed her by the arms, and she said, "No, get off me." And he kissed her, and then she said, "No, no." And then she kissed her back, and that was sort of the thing. That's not the thing no more. That is sexual assault, and it is rape now. And we have to evolve. We have to understand those things, And a lot of people, most people agree, but then there were women say, "Oh, you're trying to act like he is a victim and this and that." And I'm like, I don't understand what you mean. I'm talking about the reality of where we are in society. Men do not control any sexual encounters. And if we're not educating our men to that understand that they can't afford to be wrong about situations, then what do you want us to do? And I also said to some of the women, like, I don't appreciate the fact that you're trying to women-splain me how to talk to men. Like I've given the grace when I hear women talking about what women should do. I no longer say what she should do. It doesn't matter what my opinion is of her or how she presents herself. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? The reality of the situation is I don't give a fuck how she presents herself. No man has the right to invade her space and to force himself to kiss her or do anything else. So when women were coming to me like, "Wow, you're trying to make it seem like," no, I'm talking to men. I have 3 sons, right? And this is the conversation I'm gonna have to them, is that you have to be very aware because there's a double-edged sword. Yes, there are situations where you can be aggressive. You can be doing something wrong. You can be there, but there are also situations where you're a successful man and a woman who has malicious intent can utilize that to get you. So you have to be aware of either of those situations. So the best way is just don't do it. That's just the best way to be aware of it. So that's the online conversation.
I don't see anything wrong with what you're saying. because it is true that men have to be taught that, one, they need to not try to read the room. You don't got to read the room. You got to, at this point, based upon the fact that there are people out here who claim that they have, and it has been done, that they have been falsely accused, and it has absolutely happened, right? And we've seen even more of folks claiming they're being falsely accused, and women saying, no, this was rape, and now trying to determine and define the lines of clarity and all of that has become a big part of the public discourse. That's a fact, right? And so don't read the room, because you may read wrong. Know for sure it is nothing wrong with having a conversation with somebody and being clear about what they want and the direction that you're going to go in. And in the situation that I saw, just a little bit that I understand about it, the brother tried to read the energy that he thought was there and wasn't really sure about what she was or was not willing to do. And by the way, despite whatever conversation they may have been having, they was talking shit, key. You don't touch me in public, in front of people. You don't know what my situation is. Because by the way, it sounds to me, again, I'm speaking completely without knowing either one of these people really, and only watching one short clip of this particular young woman. So I'm in the best position, I think, to give my opinion, because I don't even know about all of this stuff about her sexy and this, that, and the third. I'm just going on a little bit of information. What I know is that people have images, right? I'll give you a perfect, well, I won't say the person's name, but there's a guy that is on the internet that until recently, most people had no idea how intelligent and intellectual he is, and the way he speaks and the things that he says, which he still does that all the time, but he drops bombs of knowledge all the time. And his voice even changes sometimes when he's talking about the serious shit that's happening in this country and all the crazy political stuff that we're dealing with. And so, and a lot of people say to me, I had no idea that he even thought like this because of the image that he portrays every day. But that does not mean that now you could just decide that you're going to go, you know, when he walks into the bank, that because you saw him on the internet, that you now don't think that he can buy a house, right? That you as a bank officer don't get to make a decision that because he was acting so ghetto on the internet, and you be seeing him on there, that he don't got enough money or credit or ability to manage a home. So you don't read the room. What you do is go through the process. And in a banking situation, the process would be, despite how ignorant he may sound, fill out the application and let me see what you got in the bank. Mm-hmm. That's it. We're going through the process. And it's the same thing, which I agree with sex. Don't worry about whether or not you think maybe, and it feels kind of like, nah, confirm. What's up? What we doing here? Where we at? That's it. And so you damn sure can't find that out while you at a game or on a show or whatever. You can't find that out. All you're doing right now is talking shit that is fodder for, it's energy for the shit that might come later. I mean, it's just like a husband and wife or a boyfriend and a girlfriend. You ain't getting right. Some people do, but I'm talking about the majority. Y'all ain't about to get busy right here in the restaurant, but across the table, you talking shit. Mm-hmm. You saying, you know, when I get you home, it's going to be this, that, and the third, but then the restaurant is not the right place to whip your shit out and put it on the table. Like, what are we talking about? This is very simple. And it just was wrong time, wrong place. You don't know who that woman is with, right? Her image is like Cardi. Think about Cardi. Cardi talking about that coochie all day and all night. She popping it, she shaking it, she dropping it, she doing all that. But I bet you she know better than to let somebody than to be kissing and touching with somebody with her husband. Her husband is completely fine with the image that she has created for herself of being a sex symbol in her own right that helps them make millions and millions and millions of dollars. But you, my son, or whoever other man, better not go somewhere and start kissing on her, because that woman got a husband.
That's 100% right, and I think that pretty much breaks it down. I think we live in over-sexualized times. The culture is over-sexualized, and as I started just doing research on Suki, like I said, I thought what happened to her was wrong, 100%. But I said, I've also seen situations and men talking to her, things that were happening with physical shit that was going on that I also thought was wrong, right? That she didn't think was wrong. So I don't get to, like, what I said is, I don't get to decide what's wrong or right for her, right? But I do know this. People are going to have conversations with you based on what you put out into the universe. Now, I'm not talking about physical. The physicality part of it should never happen. But people are going to think that you're gonna get invited to the sex parties. Niggas gonna come up to you and ask you about your pussy, because that's the image that you put out all the time. When that's all you talk about, then it's freaks out there that's what they think about. Niggas think about fucking all the time. So we got the reality of the situation is, when every conversation that you have is based on sex, when somebody meets you, that's who they think you are. So
Absolutely.
the conversations are going to, but the physicality, but she has to understand that you are going to invite energy of people who are just straight up freaks, because this is what you put into the, like, I've started paying attention to, a lot of shit that she did. There was people putting their fingers in her vagina, like online. Like, these are shit, like she was twerking on a 10-year-old boy. Like, these are things that were happening. So I see that we have to have levels of outrage for everything. This man is definitely wrong, and whatever happens to him, he has to deal with those consequences. But we also got to say, why is she twerking on a 10-year-old?
Well, I'm not, listen, but that's the thing where we have to be very careful of, because yes, all those conversations should and can happen, but they cannot be conflated, right? And that's the same thing that they do when we say police brutality, and they go, yeah, but what about black on black crime? That we can deal with that. We can deal with the twerking on a little boy and all of that. But what we're not gonna do is bring up black on black violence or violence among black people at the same time while we talking about police killing.
No, but I think it's
right?
different. We talking about
No,
one individual. No. We're talking about individual.
But the reason, no, I'm telling,
because it's like this.
Because no, let me just finish my point. Because the reason why those women are reacting to you in the way, which again, I agree with you. And I'm sure that they are triggered for various reasons. But I know one reason why they feel the way that they do. I didn't see any of this, so I'm just going by what I think. Where you said a few women came to you, it's because underneath the surface of that statement, like, well, you also have to be careful of the energy that you invite, which I still agree with.
Oh,
well, that's what you just said.
That's just a conversation we having now. This is
but
just,
you just said
this
that.
is a broader. Yeah, I didn't even put that.
But when you say like we don't make decisions or whatever, and all of that, it still has in it this little vein of, even though the chick might be a complete trick and all the way whatever she is, still you don't touch her because you could get in trouble, but not because, regardless of how she may look, act, or be, she is her and you are you, and you're not allowed to invade her just because you feel like whatever she may or may not be doing gives you permission. That to me is a total different conversation, because what that
says.
But
the thing is, but what I'm trying to say is this, because we have to be honest in this conversation, right? Like, the average woman that walks up to a man right, that grabs his dick, the nigga's not gonna call the police.
But that's not
right?
cool.
No, but listen just listen to what I'm saying so you can understand what I'm saying. Every scenario and situation can be different. I'm almost sure, just based off the way he did that this has worked before, right? These situations, they've worked before. There are men who walked up when you have a certain level of status. You can walk into certain places, you can grab certain women, and they're okay with it. These situations have worked before. You don't find out it don't work until it don't work. So I'm explaining to you. So every situation is not, it's not one thing. It's not, yo, that situation ain't right. It's worked for him in his situation before. He probably have 5 or 10 girls that he probably have dealt with in that same manner, and he got what he needed out of the situation. The girl didn't feel the change. She actually wanted that energy. She said this to him so he can do these things. Those situations actually happen. So when I say that, it's to say that I get it. I get what you're saying. You might say, yo, usually when a chick do something like that to me, she's okay with it. I've done that before. It's worked before. It's happened. I'm trying to tell you that you can't even think like that. You should take that reality out of your mind, because it don't matter if you right, if you think you right. The minute that you find out you wrong, it's too late. It's completely too late. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's why there should be, and I guess I had a whole different thought of the day, but I'm gonna have to wait to discuss that on the next show. But I guess that is my thought of the day. Where is Mike Tyson? Because we need to go find Mike Tyson and bring him back to the forefront so he can help you understand what happened to him when he thought or decided that, it was cool because he read the room and he read wrong. Okay.
Exactly.
And there's a, that might not be the right comparison, only because Robin Givens' story is that he was also brutally violent, right? So that's a different thing. But the conversation in our community about going to a man's room in the middle of the night was very, very, very prevalent and at the forefront. That what do you expect when you go to a man's room in the middle of the night, or do you think you getting tea and crumpets? Is that what you think? Because that is not what's happening. And those conversations do happen. My thing is, in terms of my thought of the day, and I think you're in that area, in that ballpark, but you've got to be intentional about how you have the conversation, is why do we not learn from the history of people who have been through this, even currently? You currently have Cuba Gooding paying people money for some similar shit. The video that shows him groping and kissing the woman in the restaurant got his ass in big trouble. And this is Cuba Gooding Jr., who we love. And now his ass is in trouble. His image has been ruined because of the same things, grabbing on women and making a decision about how far he can take it, right? I know married people, men and women, that the rules in their house is go out, have a good time, flirt, but don't go too far. So you don't know what people's situation is. So they might be out giving the freak energy because that's the extent of what they could do, but they're not trying to let you put your hand, mouth, or anything else on them. And I don't understand why we do not learn from the things that have happened all around us. We see Trey Songz, yet another person that figures, hey, well, at least this is what they say. It's all alleged. Everything we're saying here is alleged because we don't know, because we weren't there. However, there are a number of women who have come forward to say they went out, they hung out with him, and then they were violated in one way, shape, or form. And it is because, to your point, one, there was a time when it was acceptable that if you was hanging out with a man, it was just understood that you were supposed to give something up. That's one. And two, the other side of the coin is this idea that when women are throwing themselves at you, that while so you here, because I came to do what we came to do. Like I didn't come, I got a girl at home, I got kids, I got this, or I have a career, I'm busy, I'm only in this city for one night. So if you show up here, then you know what's popping. And that is not the case. So I'm trying to figure out, and I'm glad you're doing the work. I'm glad y'all should do the work, but be careful. I'm not saying don't have the conversation, because it is important. It's like going out and saying, I know that America is fucked up and it's hard and it's difficult to find the type of work that you want. And, there's challenges to, succeeding. You can't necessarily get a bank loan. Housing is fucked up. Education is fucked up. You got kids, you telling them, listen, I already know your teacher ain't shit. The school is messed up. The books ain't right, but you still got to go there and do the right thing. So I get the point of saying this young lady presents herself a certain way, and a lot of young ladies do, right? And that needs to be acknowledged. But I'm just saying that we have to be very careful in threading the needle of giving information so that people can understand, and also, or pretty much labeling and criminalizing, that's not the right term. While we're speaking, we're also criminalizing women or labeling women. I don't know, that's the wrong word, but y'all know what the heck I'm trying to say. We just have to be careful. That's my only point.
I get it. But my thing is this, I have to relay messages to men the way that men receive things. I just said all of that.
Yeah,
and that's just the bottom line.
I just said it. I just broke down how you might go to a man that just came home from prison and you gonna say to him, listen, the whole country, I get it, it's all messed up, you was locked up, this happened, you lost time, you this and that, you come back, your girl is not available, she done slept with your homeboy, your mama is this and that and third, all the status you used to have, you ain't got no more, blah, 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 blah. I get it, you gotta break down the facts so that people can feel that you understand where they're coming from.
That's it.
But I still am saying, we have to be careful that we break down the facts so much that the person uses it as an excuse. That's my point.
But the thing is, it's the reality. It's like this, right? People want you to do it their way. It's like somebody, when I'm talking to dudes, I'm like, yo, look, can't be in the streets. The police gonna grab you. You're gonna lose this and that. And dudes be like, yo, why not just not commit crime? Why not? Because it's just not the right thing to do. And I'm like, that's not a conversation I'm having. You never been in a position where you actually had to do crime. Maybe it wasn't the right thing for you to do. It just wasn't this right. But you don't understand where we come from in our community. It's not about right. It's about what we see as the right thing to do at that time. The desperation and all the shit you do. So when you come from this moral high ground that I should just be telling kids, don't commit crime because it's the wrong thing to do. That conversation don't work with us. You could come to my page and say, oh, you're justifying the crime. You're saying as long as you can get away. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're not going to get away with it. That's the reality of what I'm saying. I'm saying you're not going to get away with it. I understand why you actually want to do the crime. I understand that you feel that it's a need. I understand that it's glorified. I understand all those things because I've been through that exact same thing. But if you're looking to come on this page and have the person that is the Christian or the high mighty person that's saying crime is just wrong, and that's the reason why you shouldn't do it. I'm not the person that's going to say that. So if whoever doesn't like the fact that I'm going to tell you not to commit crime because I don't want you to go to jail and I don't want you to get caught and lose your family, then I don't know what to tell you. Because that's the only way I know how to deliver it, because that's the only way I would receive it. I wouldn't receive it the way that the goody two shoes person wants it said. It's not gonna work for me.
But I think so. I agree. I actually agree. I just have to continue to reinforce the fact that there still should be some shit is just wrong, period. Right? Like it's just wrong, period. There's no equivocation. It's wrong. So if if somebody comes to you, if a child, you know, spits in their mother's face, I really don't care to hear the story about what happened. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All of the things, I've heard you say to other young people, my mother had all of these issues. We went through mad shit. And guess what? I still respect her. It doesn't matter. And you was never gonna tolerate your brothers jumping in her face, cuss her out, slap her, this, that, and the third. It just can't happen. And there's no excuse for it. So that's what I think people are trying to convey. But I still understand your point is that this is not a zero-sum conversation, because there are elements to it that have to be explored in order for people to understand the traps. That the trap is gonna be, they gonna show up looking like they ready. It's popping. They looking like they hot on the stick. But if they have not confirmed to you that they want you to touch them, you should not. So I get it, but I'm just giving you that other perspective so that you can use that also and be careful about the line, because you can't slap or spit in your mother's face, no matter if she was on drugs, selling coochie, you caught her in the house, snorting dope, it don't matter. No, you can't hit your mother or slap your mother or do whatever. So a person can't come. Listen, a person can't come and tell you they raped the child because they just had a thing. Nah, you're not trying to hear that. You don't care what the reason is, period. And you're not even going to entertain. If somebody come tell you they hurt your sons, you don't care what happened. Short of the fact that so that's the only thing I'm saying. That's the only thing I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying it because you should change your messaging. I'm saying it because each one of us walks through life with biases based upon our own experience. And at times, even when we're doing a good thing, those biases and those feelings and those little undertones of misogyny, of us as women, hating Black men, you know, you as a Black woman or as a woman, I find myself getting into conversations sometimes, and there I go with the, you know, niggas ain't shit theory. And that ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? But it's based upon my experience. And why am I telling a young woman who is coming to me excited about a guy, and I'm over here like, that's not, you know, I gotta be careful. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't give her some jewels, but I gotta be careful not to also bring to it my own levels of insecurity that I'm deflecting upon her or onto her.
That's fair. That's fair. You know, I just want to be clear, and no, I do not condone any man, you know, physically, sexually harassing, abusing, doing anything to any woman. You know, it brings me back to the statement that I talked about rape culture and how we've all contributed to it. You know, that actually went viral. You know, and this was pretty much one of those situations. You know, but I have to relay the messages to these young boys, you know, to the men who are coming into, who dealing with their hormones, who dealing with all of this culture, who sees this, who are around promiscuous men and women, and they're seeing shit happen. You know, don't put yourself in those predicaments. You know, because the minute that it doesn't happen, the way that you believe it should, or the energy that you thought was happening, it's not going to work out for you.
I'm gonna leave it at that. You know, we know so much about this topic. I bet you everybody in our community, not everybody, because I didn't know a lot about it, but a lot of people, a majority, overwhelming. You ask them about Sukiana and YK Osiris, they know all about it. We better also know what's going on with our national security. And so we are bringing a guest on right now to talk to us about, you know, last week we talked about Trump. And I think Trump is a small part of a bigger issue. And we talk about it all the time, but this situation with the indictments and all of that is bringing to forth what white supremacy is forming up to be, what it's shaping up to be, again, in this nation, and the potential for it. And so while y'all may not want to hear it, and you might have wanted us to have somebody to come on and talk about women and touching and rape and sex and men and assault and all of that, we finna shift gears and go back to the implications of our national security, or the national security threat that is underlining, the sort of undergirding of Trump and the documents being on the stage and in the bathroom with the chandelier in his crib. So let's bring our guest on. And so in keeping with, what we were just talking about, that, I know a lot of folks just don't care. They just are uninterested in hearing about a white man's troubles with the courts, right? Because too many of our families and too many of the people that we know, people we grew up with, they come from, constant interactions with law enforcement and with the system. And they already know that despite the fact that the charges against Donald Trump are so enormous and dangerous, that it is more likely that Pookie from the hood that has a little bit of weed in his pocket will get more time and will experience more harshness from the system. So they just don't really care. They're tired of it, tired of hearing about Trump. But this is our country that we live in. And what we know is that in this particular moment, there's some real serious things happening, and our people need to be aware. One would say that when you think about 9/11, there are people in that building, or who were in that building, who probably didn't care about what was happening with national politics at all, had no idea about some of the issues that caused the backlash that we ended up experiencing. And so we, as citizens who are walking around in everyday public facilities and, going to theme parks and all of that, we need to know that our national security has been compromised, and there is anything is possible at any moment. So that's why we've been covering this. And today our guest is someone that, if you're not watching him on nightly news, daily news, middle of the day, he's on all the shows all the time, someone who has a great a political mind, but also a national security perspective, is joining us today, and his name is Malcolm Nance. He is a New York Times bestseller and a political and national security analyst. Thank you so much, Malcolm, for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
So let's just, first of all, before we get into, because we know you don't have a lot of time today, let's just talk about who you are and what you do, what you have done, so that people understand the brilliant Malcolm Nance.
I wouldn't call myself brilliant, but I know some things. And for those of you who don't know me from MSNBC, where I was a national security analyst, for the most part, I'm not a reporter. I'm certainly not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. This is the way I describe myself. I'm a spy that talks on television. So I held a top secret special access program security clearance for almost 3 decades, and have been working in the national security field for almost 40 years. So the kind of documents we're talking about, the things that are going on with Donald Trump, I have a firsthand perspective on it, because every day I handled those kinds of documents day in, day out. And now we're going to talk, we're going to bring to light why people in our community should care about this matter, because it does affect us, even though you might not see it every day.
So is Trump going to jail?
And that brings that brings the question up: are there two systems of laws? And when you mentioned Pookie, with a little bit of weed in the pocket, will probably go into an extremely harsh system where no bail will be offered, or bail that's excessively high will be offered, not released on their recognizance, not allowed to go out and talk all about the case in a high-end restaurant. We do have to admit there are two systems of government or of law. Here's why: because in the last 5 years, there have been 7 other people who have been captured with documents. I say captured, sorry, but caught with U.S. government top secrets in their possession, large quantities of them, and every one of them was denied bail. Every one of them was remanded into custody because they assume they are foreign spies or have the ability to be foreign spies, and cannot be trusted anymore within the system. One person, a young woman named Reality Winner, she went to prison for 5 years for one piece of paper. So will Donald Trump go to prison? You look, as someone who handled this information, who was entrusted with America's secrets, he absolutely should go to prison. Period. No question. You can't use the, crazy mafioso defense that he's wandering around in his bathrobe, reading top secret documents at home to feel good about himself. He deliberately took these things, but let's let the laws and the the jurisprudence system adjudicate him properly so that we know that when he gets convicted, that it was done fairly and we can avoid a civil war.
So that's why you think that the special prosecutor took the case to Florida. That's what I keep hearing, that they wanted to make sure it was in a place where where Donald Trump wouldn't be able to claim that it was like a sham, basically.
Well, even though the documents were stolen in Washington, D.C., the real mishandling, removal, were happening in Mar-a-Lago, right? Boxes, hundreds upon hundreds of documents. Where the real offense occurred was when they requested them back for the national records, as part of the National Presidential Records Act, they lied repeatedly and said, we don't have any documents. Trump personally knew he had documents, and his aide, Walty Nara, were moving those specific boxes around. So that's where the crime is, and then lied to the United States government repeatedly to the point where the FBI had to do an armed raid on his compound to get these documents back.
What are the documents? We talk about documents, but tell us about some of these documents.
I got to tell you, I have a Substack. It's malcolmnance.substack.com, and I'm about to release a very highly detailed analysis, not classified, but where I go over the titles that were released. And some of these things are shocking in what he took and we're keeping around. Planned war plans against the government of Iran, which means the United States Armed Forces would attack Iran, invade the country with an invading army, and how specifically we would do it. Now, for everybody who's listening in the African-American community or any community, and you say, well, what does this have to do with me? This has nothing to do with me. This doesn't affect my day-to-day life. Every one of you's got a relative in the armed forces at some point somewhere, whether it's a cousin, an aunt, a mom. Hey, we're talking about sending them to die. We're talking about another situation where African Americans are disproportionately members of the armed forces, Latino Americans disproportionately members of the armed forces, and amongst the most loyal, right? We don't go around stealing documents. So these people would be sent into harm's way on the basis of someone who may have stolen the actual plans, sold them, gave them away, bragged them, and the compromise of those plans could literally kill American citizens. Now, what does that do to your bottom line? Raises your taxes because you have to pay for all those weapons of war, and impact your life. Remember how we discriminated against Muslim Americans, many of whom are Black, for over 2 decades because of the war on terrorism. First person killed after 9/11 wasn't even a Muslim. He was a Sikh American Sikhs are from northwestern India. They're not Muslims at all. They just wear head turbans as part of their culture. They're a warrior tribe. And one of them was murdered days after 9/11 because they said, oh, we're going to go after the Arabs. It wasn't even an Arab. So all of these things affect all of us, whether they close this national parks because they got to buy more airplanes, or whether they cut all the food off for your children in school like they tried to do last year, wanted to eliminate school breakfast, right? But they give $1 trillion tax cut to the richest 1% of Americans. Everything is connected. And that's the thing you need to understand. So Donald Trump stealing top secret documents, which he was going to sell or blackmail people with, or just sit around for his own demented, amusement reading, compromises the safety of you and every citizen in this country.
So you know what my question is? This is like mind-boggling to me. If this was President Obama, This same situation was happening with President Obama. What do you think would have happened by now? And secondly, how don't we see that allowing Trump to constantly do these things and still be able to run for president undermines what this country looks like? Why is that not obvious to everybody? Because there's no way that you can expect citizens or people who live here, or especially people who don't live here, to look and see a sham like this and see that this person who is pretty much damn near a mafia leader running for president in control of our country. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, why don't these optics click in with our government?
The optics do click in with the government, but there are two sides to this coin. There is a party that is trying to govern, that is trying to run things, to keep things going, to get your bridges built, that are trying to get your children fed so that they can actually understand what they're learning in school. You know, they've done studies. If a child doesn't eat breakfast, he generally will have no attention for the first 3 hours, right? And, you know, all of these things which we fund for, as we like to say, the Commonwealth, right? The things which make America great. There is another party which is no longer even a party. They are a group of vandals, and they are there to destroy government. But they have a different view. America is now splitting down from two-party system to one party and a tribe. And I don't use that term glibly. I mean, the Republican Party, what was the Republican Party, has now turned into a tribe. And it is the tribe of the white male cultist. And they view Donald Trump as the spiritual and ideological leader of their tribe. He's like Jim Jones, right? You know, down in Guyana. He's constantly telling them that people are coming to get them. You've got to be ready to fight. You've got to be ready to protect me. You've got to give me all your money. These people have turned Donald Trump not as a president. He is an avatar for white rule in America. He has returned since, for the first time, really seriously, since the 1930s, white supremacy to the pinnacle of the presidency of the United States. Woodrow Wilson, he dabbled in that, had Klan members, come to the White House. And back in the 1920s and 30s, you couldn't be in some parts of government in the South unless you were a publicly recognized Ku Klux Klan member. We are now shifting back to that at a time where we should be, teaching our kids common decency. One group of people, this tribe, are teaching people hatred against all others except for the white family, right? Is the basis of that. Now, you might be thinking, Malcolm, you're African American. This is why you're talking like that, like you're Huey Newton or, a member of the Black Panthers. I view this from an intelligence community perspective. If you had sent me to Rwanda 25 years ago and said, hey, one of the parties is not ruling the government, it ordered 1 million machetes from China and are now extorting them to mass murder all their neighbors, we would have laughed. I mean, we didn't laugh. I was there at the time. I'm not in Rwanda, but I was doing that mission. And that's what happened. One group turned into a tribe, right? The Hutus, the Hutu. And they decided to mass murder every Tutsi in their country. And they almost did. They got almost 900,000 of them, where neighbor cut off the head of the neighbor with machetes that were being bought by the government. That's an extreme view. I'm trying to get you to understand that modern, vibrant, seemingly civilized people can turn into genocidal mass murderers. And it happened in the 1930s in Nazi Germany. We are seeing what was the Republican Party actually become a fascist party, where they believe in a dictator. And one woman said this famously 2 years ago. Well, I didn't think that I would ever want a dictator to lead America, but if we have to have one, it should be Donald Trump. That is what you're seeing. You are seeing.
I got to jump in here on that because this is powerful. When you say we could, or seemingly civilized people could turn into mass murderers. Let's be clear, they already did that. So so the history of our people, the history of Africans here on this soil is being mass murdered. That's one. And now we see it happening in front of our eyes, from George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin all the way to A.J. Owens, and the neighbor who shot and killed her just a few weeks ago, and even Jordan Neely, who choked, Daniel Perry, who choked Jordan Neely to death. We are seeing an uptick in the type of violence against our people.
What you're really seeing now, it's portraying itself in these individual cases of violence. But what's the underlying motivation for these attacks? Because lynchings have always occurred in the United States, right? What you're seeing is a very powerful push by essentially white men to say that laws are in their hands only. And that they, with a wink and a nod, they think law enforcement's on their side. And they get really upset when things like the January 6th riots happen and law enforcement pushes back and they arrest 1,000 of them and send 1,000 to prison. They don't understand that. It short circuits their system. My point about the story of Rwanda as an example was, I'm not just using the United States as a model. This is human nature. And what you're finally seeing in the United States is when we do that 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing, this is now 1 step forward, 7 steps back. And these people are consciously, I wrote a whole book about it. They want to kill Americans, right? The they is your neighbors, the neighbors who feel that Donald Trump has personally empowered them to be judge, jury, and executioner. And as one person said, this is white America again, right? Wrong. I spent 40 years defending this nation. My family spent over 150 continuous years defending this nation, right or wrong, so that we could do that 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back tango that we do, but it's progress. That's not what's happening anymore. You are watching a body who wants to bring the nation back to where one ethnic group will control all others. They will rule over everyone. 35% of this country, let's call it 40, thinks that they are going to ignore the other 60% and essentially bring them back to a position of servitude.
So what should we be doing? The President Obama piece that you asked.
Oh, geez, you don't want to hear about that. That funny thing about President Obama, he probably would have been impeached because back in that period, the Democrats who are now, I haven't quite figured out why they keep thinking that being fair and dealing, on a level playing field with the Republicans is going to get them their respect. There's no respect here. I'm not joking. When I wrote that book, They Want to Kill Americans, it was, they wanted me to have a nicer title. And I was like, you don't seem to understand. They are the people who you live near who are armed. And if they could have killed Barack Obama, they would. And you never know. There's always plots going on out there. But if Obama had done the same thing, had lost his mind, right, and had decided to keep those documents, Democrats would have impeached him, along with 100% of the Republicans. But he didn't. He didn't do anything. The Obama administration was the single most honest and ethical administration in the history of the United States. I think they got one guy on lying to his girlfriend, all right? I think the transport secretary, and that's it. I don't even think they got a conviction. So we're talking an administration or an ex-administration that literally tried to overthrow the government of the United States, stealing documents which belong to America's national defense, and then saying, well, essentially, we're white guys. It's okay. We can get away with it. And everyone in the Trump tribe goes, yeah, he's exempt. We don't care if he does it. If a Democrat does it, we want to hang them. If Mike Pence doesn't overthrow the government, we literally want to hang him. So what is the motivating factor? White men with guns. And those threats about the Second Amendment, That is the motivating factor behind a lot of the behaviors of the Republican. But those people backing their politicians are a permission slip for their politicians to finally behave and act and say the exact same terrible things their constituency wants to hear them say. They want them in the face of Black people. They want them to threaten people with guns. And if they could have a civil war, I wholeheartedly believe that they would have it.
So what should we be doing right now? What as good citizens, people of good moral conduct, like what should we all be doing at this moment?
Which is we should be doing what we did in 2019. All right. I have people ask me all the time, Malcolm, should I buy a gun? Right? No, absolutely not. Especially not a handgun. Handguns are solely in your house to kill your children. Right? That's what happens with handguns. You should be mobilizing your friends, your family, everybody. You see, the passion that I have isn't passion. It's warning. I am warning you that you have to get out there and use the one system that's in place that can neutralize them. And that is you have to mobilize to vote, not just in the primaries. Every time there's a vote for dog catcher, school board, go take back these school boards. They organize thousands of these crazy mothers, right, to who were QAnon anti-vaxxers, believing Hillary Clinton was killing children for their blood. Their Moms for Liberty was their name. They went to all these school board meetings and started attacking the basic people on there to the point where the people quit and they elected themselves on these boards. Take back your school boards, take back your education, and you're going to have to start getting in the faces of people who would threaten you and your families. Because what they want is for us to have a calm, quiet, calm, and decent debate. What they cannot tolerate is pushback. And pushback can just be a matter of you going to your school board meeting and saying, what we call in the intelligence community, meta-narrative reframing. The big picture. They're coming out there saying you are all pedophiles and child groomers, right? And nobody pushes back, or they sit there and they listen to them. Your reframing should be, I'm sorry, you're crazy. You're crazy. Don't come in here and talk like that. Don't disgrace ourselves. Get out, right? Decent people are talking. See, they rely on you not to do that. And that's why they are expanding. My problem is, as an intelligence professional, it will expand to the point where they feel that your life is forfeit. And they may bring a gun and just decide, I will shoot my way to leadership. I don't know, but we have had many, many, many of those threats manifest themselves. And only really since Donald Trump came down the golden escalator and announced for presidency. And it gave them a permission slip to feel that they own America.
They're sure trying to put their plan in motion. And so many of us are just so disconnected and just disgusted that we're not necessarily paying attention. And I do think that there's possible retaliation with all of this. I mean, when you start talking about people who may be worried about what's in those documents, about, like you said, the Iran piece, what happens when they decide, oh, you planning on a war against us, huh? Good to know. Maybe we'll do something to Americans. Like this is very, very serious. And I hope that our listeners understand that this is not a TV show. While there are many that help us to kind of, get a glimpse of what could happen. Because I was going to bring up, what's the show I love so much? What's the women? Mysonne, you remember when I was so crazy about this show?
The Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale.
That's a documentary now. That's not a TV series. Exactly.
I mean, it's all right there, but this is our real, we're living this. This is happening in our history and in this moment, which will be history later, but it's the current. And so I just want to appreciate you for, first of all, being bold enough to say what you are saying. And I think the point that you made that will resonate the most with Street Politicians listeners will be around how Democrats somehow think that they have to be friends and nice and kind to people who are obstructionists. Like we're dealing with people who are crazy, to your point.
You can't
and
negotiate with terrorists, man.
Exactly. Right. And we're talking about, well, you know, hey, John. There's no hey, John is trying to kill us.
Right. And another thing is that we have our own street level people who thwart and try to influence our mindset. My own barbershop when I was living in Philadelphia, these guys are like, well, Trump says, what do we got to lose? And I literally would stop them, and there's like 10 people in there. I go, your life.
Yeah.
He was telling cops to beat you and kill you. You think that, oh, he's got money. He's married to a fashion model. That is not the reality of your world. You're not a millionaire who's down on your luck and is just 5 haircuts away from getting $1 billion. You're not going to be a rich rapper. You're not going to be a person who is above the law. All right. Like these people, the only thing you were ever given in the legacy of this nation is your vote. And that is your voice. And we have people, I was in Harlem recently, and I had these guys out on the street. There's no difference between Democrats and Republicans. Don't vote for, it's like one party wants to see you dead. And the other, and one party's taking care of you, but that crazy party, what they want is for you to not vote. And not voting is voting for Donald Trump and the people who would arm cops with the ability. And I work for law enforcement. I train law enforcement officers. I went through SWAT officer school with a whole slew of cops. Most cops are awesome and they just want to keep the peace. But you know what? When you give them the mindset that they are above the law themselves, and it comes from the president of the United States, then you can't say that both parties are the same. You vote for one or you vote for the other by not voting.
Wow. Well, we still think that there is more, and I'm sure you agree, that the Biden administration can do.
Sure.
You know, we certainly think that, and we don't give them a pass, although we understand what obstruction looks like. And I think, you know, our people are so frustrated, which they should be, that they no longer want to hear, well, the Republicans and the this and that. It's like, hey, listen, we're tired of all of the excuses at this point.
Sometime I would like to we'll have a show, and I would like to hear what exactly are they frustrated with? The lowest unemployment in American history. Some people actually believe the lie that Donald Trump had higher Black unemployment or lower Black unemployment than Barack Obama. 13% unemployment is not the lowest. We're at 3 now. This is the second greatest economy in U.S. history. Bill Clinton gave us the greatest economy in U.S. history.
How do we hear that? And you got to go. I want to keep to that so you'll come back again. Yeah. How do people hear that when they are also struggling financially? I have more people who are out of work and and groceries are high. Inflation is clearly literally killing people. How do you hear that this is the greatest economy of whatever time period you said?
Inflation is going down to almost the exact same level it was a year before. There was a big flash in the pan last summer. All right. And it wasn't just the United States. It was all over the world. All over the world. Inflation is not something that just happens to you. OK, we're at an unemployment rate to where if you want a job, you can go get a job, but you may have to look for that job or accept a job that you may have to be retrained on. You know, the economy and the world is not coming to you. You have to go to it. I spent 20 years in uniform and 20 more years working for the government to ensure that the people of the United States have the one word that America is built on. And it ain't hope, it's opportunity. And you have to take the opportunities. You don't got a job, join the Armed Forces of the United States. We got lots of work. All right.
I don't agree. I agree with that.
You don't want to do that? Go to the #1 place that we made a movie about it. The post office. All right. They're not even a U.S. government agency, and you can always have a career there. There is always something to do. Amtrak's hiring if you guys want to be a conductor. I saw a black conductor the other day. I was so proud of her. I mean, there's something to do out there. But if you expect to fall off out of the sky, look, you're not Donald Trump, okay? Your daddy is not going to hand you $230 million. And if he can, you probably ain't black.
And that's the reality. I just want to say this. I definitely agree with that. You know, I have friends who've been incarcerated, who've come home and found jobs, who works for MTA, who worked for post office, who has Amazon. Like, if you want a job, there are jobs for you.
You know what? Biggest thing? Go start a business. This is the time. You want to start a business? Open a cafe. When I was in Ukraine, they had these little mini cars that were like pickup trucks. And in the back was their coffee shop. You can be a multi-time convicted felon and make coffee for 5 cents a cup and sell it for $4 a cup. All right. I'm a big coffee hound, so I'm pushing mobile cafes. But make your own business. There is always something to be sold out there that is not drugs, right? There are things that can be done, but you know what it involves? Initiative, and that you really want to do it. You want to work hard to help your family.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I mean, I think we could stay here all day and talk about that, and you know, and kind of look at, and I know that you are not ignoring all of the issues that plague our communities, but there are opportunities. However, people definitely feel very hopeless. And I'm just saying, the point I'm making is that even with what you are saying, yet people do not feel it in this moment, and it is going to translate into our politics and how people show up and how they don't. And so even, you know, with everything that you said being true, when folks just don't see or feel it, they are not going to react as they should to protect and to defend a country that they don't feel is showing up for them. Right. So that's a challenge that we deal with. And trust me, we know, because we go out, we knock on doors. That's what we do. We go into the low propensity communities, which we believe are high value and high potential communities, as our sister Linda Sarsour says. And that's what we do. We try to get people to understand why it is important for them to show up. And it is not an easy conversation to have, which you know. Malcolm Nance, thank you so much for joining Street Politicians.
And thank you for bringing me on here to help you to help people understand what's happening.
Thank you very much.
We truly appreciate you, Malcolm. We got to have you again, man.
All right, no problem.
Bye. It's Handmaid's Tale. Like, it really, literally is. It is happening. It's crazy, because someone was saying to me the other day that the Jetsons was like, you know, if you watch the Jetsons, you see so much of the technology and like the way the world is going. Like, the Jetsons is still ahead of us in terms of what the creators and what they knew about the world, or the world that they dreamed up and put on the screen. And now we are moving quickly towards a Jetson style or a Jetson reality. And when I think about Handmaid's Tale, that is, it's the same thing to me, because basically we are looking at a show, which, as Malcolm said, a documentary that pretty much shows how white men got their white women wives to agree with them that they needed to have soul power. And the white women helped them to gain that power. A few of them, which is the Moms for Liberty, these groups that include women who are extremists and are supportive of their racist husbands and their husbands who want to be white supremacists, and or their leader, their cult leader, and they supported the white men. The white men took control, and then the white women in many ways became enslaved also, right? So everything that they think that they're doing to others, because they love to other people, Black, Latino, this, you're Mexican, you're whatever, you're gay. They want to other people. And they always, as white women, end up in the same exact situation for the most part. Maybe they've got a little more privilege, i.e. Handmaid's Tale. They had a little more privilege than the masses, but they end up with the same situation. And guess who they go to every time to help fight their way out of their own oppression, out of the fact that they make less money than their white husbands, out of the fact that they now don't have the right to choose, out of the fact that they feel oppressed in their homes, they don't have a voice, their issues are not being dealt with. Who do you think they go to? They go to Black women and ask us to fight alongside them to help them to right the wrongs of that they have helped create.
Historically, that's what white women have done. They've always went and got Black women. The same Black women that they leave, they leave after they get their rights. They forget that the Black women still need rights, and they leave them all the time. And it's pretty much the same philosophy that we talk about with the Democrats and Republicans, right? The Democrats want to do things politically right. They want to do it correctly. They want to kumbaya. And Black women have a nature. We're not evil people. And that's what the problem is, right? We're fighting a fight that with people who don't have any soul, damn man. These people that you're fighting against, they don't have any moral fiber. So we deal with morality. Right, and we're fighting against people who don't do that, and we have to get our minds trained to understand that the enemy that we're fighting against is devious. They'll do anything. They will say anything. They will do anything they can to win, and we don't. We want to play fair, and it's not going to work that way, So I hope we start getting that. I hope the good people start understanding that good, like peaceful doesn't mean passive. And I said that in one of my rhymes, we're not supposed to sit there and die with no resistance. That's not what's supposed to happen, So hopefully we've got that. History has taught us, that it's crazy how the media makes you believe that we are the most violent people. In history, we've never been violent to anyone but ourselves in situations where violence is nurtured. Poverty is violence. When you look at any group of people that you put in the conditions that our people are in, violence has always been, the response to those situations. So, and they understand that if they change the conditions of our people, it's going to change the conditions of our people. So I think that's something that we just have to focus on and be very aware of what we're dealing with. But in other news, which brings me to my I don't get it. I seen that little Boozy was arrested on federal charges. They said he went to court for his gun case, and then soon as his gun charge got dismissed, the feds was outside waiting for him for some other legal troubles. And I said, wow. And it just started to dawn on me, right? Like, I actually like Boozy. Boozy is he's an honest individual. So I don't agree with everything he says, but I respect the fact that he's man enough to speak his mind and not be swayed or anything. I don't agree with everything any man says, but I respect that he is honest and he's unwavering in what he feels. He's not going to let you change his view on life. He's going to live and die with whatever it is that he stands on. And that to me, that's manhood. So I respect Boozy in that regard. But what it brought me to is a new thing that I'm starting to see that I don't get. A lot of these hip hop artists, rappers, just people, period. People are so public. They're doing 1 million interviews. They're on Instagram. They're on Twitter. They're doing these things. And they are attached to criminal activity, right? And when I'm from, this is what I don't get. The school I came from is that when you were doing crime, when you were attached to anything that was illegal, you did not want to be seen. You were the quiet person. You wasn't doing no interviews. You weren't being loud. You weren't drawing any attention to you. But it seems these days, the people who seem, and that's, allegedly he's doing these things, but he did come to Instagram or Twitter and say that he apologizes to the family. So he acknowledged some wrongdoing or whatever. So I don't know whether he did anything. But what I do know is that it seems to be a new trend for the people who are attached to crime, who are doing crime, to be the loudest and most public figures, to be seen all the time. And I don't know if people understand that that's not a good strategy. Like, if you're doing something that's illegal, you don't want to be seen. You don't want people to say, yo, damn, I see this person all the time. What is he doing? Let's look into his background. Let's follow him around. He's always got something to say. He's always loud. Like, when I was in the streets years ago, I did not want to be seen. I wanted to be quiet. I wanted to disappear. The OGs that I know that was getting money in the street, they weren't the loud ones. They wasn't trying to be on the cameras. They didn't want to take no pictures. They barely had conversations with people they didn't know. I just don't get this new era of being flamboyant, loud, and visible when you know that you're attached to criminal and illegal activities. I just don't understand what people are thinking. I really don't. I just don't get it.
Maybe they think they're hiding in plain sight.
But when has that ever worked?
That's a thing.
But when has it ever worked? I hear is the theory of it, but when has it worked? When has it worked? You draw more. It's just like when you look at, when we look at Frank Lucas, in the movie. Frank was trying to be quiet. As soon as he wore that mink coat, the police were like, who's that down there? You know what I'm saying? Who's that with the mink coat? He got all of this. And that's the real, that is a reality.
It wasn't mink. It wasn't mink. It was chinchilla.
Oh, it was out.
Which is even more expensive.
Yeah, he had that chinchilla on. And then he realized he threw that shit in the fire. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that.
And the interesting thing about it is that his woman encouraged him to wear that damn coat. He never wanted to wear. He did it for her. It's a lot of things to analyze in American Gangster.
American Gangster has a lot of jewels.
Because it is true. American Gangster has a lot of jewels. And some great acting, which is a whole different conversation. But what you're talking about is true, that Frank Lucas did not want to be known. He did not want to be seen, although he was a philanthropist in his community. So that got him a lot of attention. A lot of people.
It got him attention to where he was loved in his community. He wasn't speaking out. He wasn't trying to be seen for the wrong thing. He was just seen as a regular businessman. He had his shop, this and that. The community said, oh, Frank is a good guy. He worked with Bumpy Johnson. He was, he was his personal assistant. So he was known and respected in the community, but he didn't want heat drawn. He always said the loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. And I just don't, no disrespect to anybody, but I just want to know what is the mindset that comes with it. First of all, I don't condone criminal activity at all. But once again, I don't understand what is the mind state of this generation. Is this the culture? It's not even generation, because Boosie is not a young dude. So it's the culture. And what I realized that this culture has even allowed, or is even influenced elders. I've watched a lot of dudes that I respect for years that I thought were certain individuals start to get on this internet and just become less than what they are. They've strayed away from their own morals and values. So I don't know, man. I really don't. It behooves me. It really does.
Well, I hope that we find out that, Boosie's situation isn't anything bad. I mean, you already said several times that you don't know what his situation is, but it's just the point that if in fact he did do something, if he did, then the the theory that you're bringing up applies. Then why would you be doing that, whatever that could potentially be, and at the same time being this loud voice that upsets people also, because that's the other thing, is trying to keep yourself out of the limelight to where when he encountered police officers, he talked bad shit to the cops. He went and he wrote things and he said shit in their faces, told them they don't make no money. You could come work for me. I'll get you some black woman pussy, which I did not like at all. That really did upset me. I agree with you that sometimes he says things that and his courageousness in terms of speaking up and saying whatever he feels. So that is attractive to most people, but I also see misogyny in him and the way in which he speaks, and it's other things, other levels of ignorance that I have heard, and I'm not going to ignore it just because I think he's funny. I think he's hilarious, but I also think that there are moments, not just with Boosie, but there are moments with the internet in general that I think brings out the worst in people, because they are looking for clicks and likes and trying to be the most relevant. They're trying to, sometimes some people, I think that internet, like the red light camera, I'll never forget Jennifer Williams, our friend from Basketball Wives. She told me one day that she could be friends, chilling, hanging out with some of the same women on the show. And then when the camera comes on, it's like the red light special. Everything changes. Everybody changes. Everybody starts acting different. Things they didn't even discuss before those cameras came on becomes the issue during the show. And you like, what are you talking about? Like when did this problem even come up? We was just fine. So I think that the internet is like the red light special, and it can be pretty dangerous.
It is, man. But I hope we just start doing better, man. So, but with that said, that brings us to the end of another dope episode. Shout out to our analyst that we had on, Malcolm Nance. Excellent analyst, man. What does he say? He's a security.
He's a New York Times best-selling author, and he is also a national security and political analyst.
Yeah, that's what he does, and he was very, very.
And he's obviously a Democrat, all the way a Democrat.
He's definitely Democrat. So, he let that be known, but he definitely has some. When you're that entrenched and you are. What would I say? You are entrusted. When you are entrusted with the level of knowledge and national security things that he said that he's been entrusted with for years, his decisions come from somewhere. He knows more about the shit that we know about. So when he's talking about things, I'm listening. I'm not sold, like you said. We definitely see problems in this administration. We see problems in all administration. But what he did say that I'd always said is these people trying to kill us. I hear you don't like this person and that person, but these people trying to kill us. And if we don't acknowledge that, then they're gonna succeed. So shout out to him for his insight, and shout out to you for showing up as usual. It's still your birthday month, all month.
Almost. I got about 5 more days before the Cancer folks roll in. So right now, still on the Geminis, and I'm gonna find a way to turn up one more again before those 5 days come to a conclusion.
Yes. Street Politicians fan, we appreciate y'all for making us the #1 podcast in the world. Yes, the #1. We love y'all. We here with you, you here with us, and we here together. If you got any suggestions, let us know. Street Politicians Pod on Instagram. Send us your DMs. Let us know what you want to hear, who you want us to interview, what you like, what you don't like. We here for you. So I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D. Mallory is not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, always, always be authentic.
That's how we own it. That's how we own it.